on what I said, okay?
Hey guys, it's your girl Samantha here, and today I just watched this video that I feel like was a little bit of clickbait or something. You know, she basically admitted that she likes to stir the pot, okay? So her name is Tanisha Talks, and I'm just kind of getting tired of hearing the whole kids discussion. Like, have them, don't have them. Why are we having a moment? I don't even know. I don't know. I think because, to me, family planning is extremely personal. I don't know why everyone is telling everyone else what they need to be having or not having. Why? And she said that, like, her video, she was saying something about, like, you should see it as a good thing and I guess like pump yourself up or be proud of your choice to not have children because she's tired of people telling her to have kids. I don't know who the people are besides their family members. Like, I don't really know why anyone else would care if she had kids or not. It's like, what does that have to do with me? Nothing. You having children is not going to affect my life in any way, shape, or form. Let's be 100 about it. Like, you know, because let's be real. Like, I really don't know if most people have kids. I think most people have at least 2 kids, I think, or 1 or 2 kids. I don't know. It's such a bigger issue than just you, like just an individual person. Like people, okay, so there's so many different ways to look at having children, right? Like you can have them because they make you happy. You're feeling lonely. You want to have a legacy, which is usually the real reason you should have kids. A lot of people that have children, I think, are building something and they want to continue their lineage and their legacy and pass on what they've built. For instance, Oprah doesn't have any children, but she adopted, well, I think she started some school in Africa a long time ago, like when I was like 13 or something, and she adopted like all these African girls because she wanted her legacy to be continued in some way, shape, or form. On the other hand, she's not married either, and she has a lot of money. So for me personally, I don't really like the ideal of marriage, you know. So everybody has their own things. I'm kind of like over people talking about how marriage is the bag and you got to get married to get the bag. And well, I got the bag without marriage because I had kids, and that's just the way I like it. I don't really like dealing with guys and their problems and the fighting and the arguing and the controlling and the just, you're annoying me and I got to clean up behind you and ugh. So I feel like I have the best of both worlds. I have my kids' fathers. They're around. They help me when I need stuff, and when I don't want to be bothered, they go away. So that's really great for me. And of course, like, I'm free to date if I want to. I was in relationships, of course, with him. It didn't work out. So it's like now I'm free to find the guy that I feel is best for me. And like I told somebody the other day, I think I'm going to just be like Oprah and just have a Stedman. I'm going to just, because I have things. I have assets. I have wealth. Like, I don't see myself really, I'm not going to split my money and my properties and my assets with a dusty ass dude. I'm sorry. He doesn't have to, even if he's not dusty, I just don't want to do it. He can have his stuff, I can have my stuff. I'm good. Like, I don't need anybody to take care of me. And I feel like, you know, of course, like, Stedman is living in Oprah's mansion. He's living the good life. So, you know, of course, if I found a good man that had like really nice things, I'm sure I would be able to share that life with him. I might even get some of the bag from him, but I'm not sitting here looking for someone to take care of me just because of how my parents raised me. They raised me to be independent. They raised my sister to be independent and to be self-sufficient and to be able to take care of ourselves. But I always knew I wanted to be a mom. So that was just something that no one had to pressure me into motherhood. I mean, that's just something I always wanted to do. People who choose not to have kids, I feel like they put in so much effort to let everybody know how happy they are with their decision. Like, anyone cares. Like, I literally don't give it a thought. I really don't. I know that's mean, but I just don't. The only time I probably give it a thought that someone doesn't have children is when they're trying to talk about people who have children and what we should be doing with our children. And I'm like, that's interesting. You have all this say of what I should be doing with my children, but you don't have children. Isn't that interesting? It's like, I think my mom said that. She's like, the main people that write books about how to raise kids are people who don't have kids. Because it's like, it's so easy to sit on your high horse and tell everyone how to raise their children when you don't have any. It's like, isn't that, wow, imagine that. Like, everybody's the perfect parent when they're not having to actually be a parent. Isn't that so great? So I think that's the only time I give it a thought. Otherwise, I don't give it a thought. I'm just like, I'm living my best life. I have 5 boys. They are my life. Okay. So every time I tell people, they're like, oh my gosh, like they're about to come raise them. And it's funny because they're like, nobody's here raising them but me. So I'm like, why are you worried about it? So I have a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 6-year-old, and 3-year-old twins. And they're the loves of my life. And I just purchased another 10-acre property so that I can make my first property that I ever purchased into a 20-acre property. So life is going great for me. I plan on putting solar panels on it, getting some passive income, just doing great things. And guess who gave me the money to put down to get that property? It was my kid's father. So again, like, I think women just need to learn how to just live their best life. If you don't want to have kids, don't have kids. Like, it doesn't affect anyone. No one cares. Do you hear me out there, guys? No one literally gives a fuck. Like, I don't know who cares if someone has children or not who's not related to them. Like, do I care that Tanisha has kids? I don't. Do I care if Cynthia has a son? I don't. Like, I don't. And I don't think anyone cares. I really would be surprised if someone came over and said, well, I really care if other people have kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, there's enough people having kids that we're good. You know, the people that are having kids, they can hang with the other people that are having kids and have our cute little play days and keep it moving. The people that don't have kids, you can hang out with the people who don't have kids and keep it moving. Because I meet so many women, black women, who are getting up there in age and they don't have children. And this one girl was like, she was getting on my nerves. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Everybody's keeping it a buck on YouTube. I'm keeping it a buck because I had to speak out for black moms who actually like women who actually like to be moms and who actually like kids and actually like black kids. It's becoming like a dying breed, I think. But anyway, so this woman, she was like annoying. She didn't have a husband. She didn't have kids. She was always trying to hang out with me. And I get that all the time. Like, these lonely, single black women trying to take up my time. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I got something to do because I have kids. Like, hold on. So, yeah, like I was saying, if you want to be self-serving and selfish and have no one to worry about but yourself, do it. I don't know why anyone thinks anyone cares. When did this become a thing? Like, to me personally, because I live with someone who I know deep down he wants more kids. He wants more kids and he's salty because he doesn't have more kids. And I feel like every day he's trying to say shit to like make me feel like some type of way. I don't care what you're doing with your life. Because, like, okay, so it's my ex-husband. We didn't work out. So basically, he probably wanted to have more children. We didn't. I went on to have more kids because that's what I wanted. And one thing I'm not going to do is have someone tell me what I can and can't do with my life. Okay, so I went on. I have my 3 extra children that I wanted. And I'm very happy. God puts everything in place for me. Life is good for me. I feel very blessed. I feel very just like grateful for my life. And so, he's like bitter. And I'm just like, I'm so over it. Like, I'm just tired of people putting their stuff on me. Like, even this video, I'm like, is this necessary? Like, no one cares. I didn't know not having kids was a flex. And it's funny because not having kids might be a flex up to a certain age. But when you get to a certain age, it's kind of weird that you've never been married and don't have kids. Let's be honest. Like, you meet somebody, say you and this dude is like vibing. You're at the club. Let's just throw it out there. You're at the club. He's 40 years old. You're about 30, 37, whatever. And then you find out he's never been married, has no kids. No, ain't nobody still trying to talk to you. That's weird. Like, what's wrong with you? Why have you never been able to get a woman to marry you? Why don't you have any children? Are you selfish? Are you self-centered? Is there something going on there where you can't have kids? And I mean, they may work for other people who don't want to have kids either, but biologically we are meant to be on this earth to procreate and have kids. That's why we're able to have kids. So I don't know. I don't know where to go with this, because I just don't care. You know, what I do care about is people trying to act like they are better than you because they don't have children, because you're not. Because if that was the thing that everybody wanted, then nobody would have kids. No one like held me down and made me have kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, this is 2021. If people don't want to have kids, there's plenty of things they can do to not have kids. Does anyone understand that? Like, all the abortions you probably had to not have children, I could have done the same thing. All the birth control you took, all the Plan B pills you took after that crazy night out with, you know, Tyrone or whatever, I could have done the same thing. But at some point, I decided with my life, I want to be a mother. And this is the way I want to live my best life. So I'm almost 40. I have a whole plan for my life with my children included. So if you want to be almost 40 and you don't have any children still, that's on you. Good for you. If you want to be 40 and just having your first child, that's what you're doing. You know, that's what, like me personally, I don't want to be having my first child at 40. You know why? Because I knew how many kids I wanted. I wanted at least 4. So I knew if I started 40, I'm going to be like almost 50 by the time I'm finished having all my babies. And then I still have to raise them for like 2 more decades. Who has time for that? Who has time for that? So I don't know why everybody's running around in this self-absorbed, narcissistic society, acting like not having kids is the best thing since sliced bread. When did that become like the thing to do? In every society, it's normal to want to have children and to continue the human race. Suddenly now we're okay with going extinct. I don't know. I'm not even surprised, because personally I feel like, you know, every generation we get dumber. Everybody gets dumber by the minute. It's like every generation gets dumbed down more and more. So I'm not really surprised that people are starting to take this notion that they don't want to continue the human race, because that's essentially what you're saying. If you want to say you're not going to have any children, your legacy stops with you. So if everybody else in your family decides, your whole generation of people in your family say, we don't want to have any kids, your legacies, your lineage stops. It just stops right there. You fall off. If you're the Jacksons or the Williamses or the Marks or whatever the hell your last name is, you guys just stop right there. So nobody cares. I don't care. I'm going to put it out there. I could care less. I seriously don't understand why this is even a discussion. And this is why I usually don't take part in black male and black women relationships, because it's depressing. Everyone is talking in circles. And at the end of the day, we're all just really saying we don't want each other, but we want each other. I don't even know what anybody wants anymore. And at this point, to be honest, I don't care. I don't care. It's never really affected me enough to care. Like, I know that if I wanted to get married, I could get married, even with my 5 children. But I don't want to, because 1, I'm not a big fan of marriage. I just said that earlier. A second. 1, I'm not a big fan of marriage. And 2, I just don't want people around my children right now. Not people that are not their biological father. So it's just something I don't want to do. I have no interest in it. I could probably have a boyfriend, but I don't even want that right now. I'm doing me. I'm in this self-care stage, and it's actually really peaceful and really nice. So let me go ahead and play this video really quickly for you guys, because I'm just like not really sure what people are talking about. And like, who are all these people that's telling her to have kids? Who are they? Her friends? Her family? That's about it. Like, no one else cares if you have kids or not.
entire video. A following status on Facebook, and as you can imagine, it got some mixed responses. It reads, having no kids is a flex when you're not mentally, emotionally, and financially able to support them. If more people waited, we wouldn't be battling so many generational curses. End quote. So this...
Okay, so with her comment... Okay, first of all, I want to say, what a flex for what? For dating? For life? What are you flexing on? Like, who, what it... I'm trying to understand, y'all. I promise you I'm trying to understand, because I really don't deal with certain culture, because it's just like idiotic to me. So maybe I'm late to the party, but she said if you are not mentally, emotionally, or financially stable, that not having kids is a flex. I think that's interesting, because I'm like, so if you're not mentally, emotionally, or financially stable, maybe you shouldn't be dating either, or getting married for that matter. Maybe you should just be focusing on getting the help you need. And am I crazy because I'm saying that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, if you can't be a mother, because honestly, most people date to meet their future partners, their husbands and wives, their future spouse, so then they can get married and then go on to have children. I personally believe if you're not in a good space mentally, emotionally, or financially, you shouldn't even be thinking about bringing someone else into your hemisphere, into your world, because you're basically just going to drag them down with your baggage, your emotional baggage, or whatever baggage, financial baggage, whatever baggage you have going on. Listen here, guys. Everybody has baggage. It could be your children. It could be your ex-boyfriend. It could be your ex-husband. It could be your baby daddy. It could be your baby mom. I don't care who it is. Everybody comes with baggage. It's just up to you to pick and choose what baggage you want to be rocking with, because you have to think on your own level as a woman. What do you want for your life? So you have to be at this place where it's like, whether the dude, it works out with him or not, are you going to be happy regardless with your choices that you made? You got to put your big girl panties on and think about, are you going to be happy no matter what choices you've made in your life? Living with no regrets, right? Live with no regrets. And don't make these like bitter choices and then be on YouTube trying to pretend like you're happy with your choices because you're talking about them. And the fact you're talking about them is telling me that you're not happy with them, because you're kind of like trying to shove it in other people's faces to show, I'm happy. If you were happy, you would just be living your life. You wouldn't need to tell everybody about how happy you are. You would just be living your best life. Like, I don't see why she felt the need to make that comment or make this video or any of it.
Whole no kids flex, or people with no kids versus people who have kids. This whole thing has become increasingly popular on social media. And one of the reasons why I made this status is because I'm tired of society pressuring women to have children before they're ready because of our biological clocks. So before we dive...
I'm a woman, and she's talking about society telling us to have children before we're ready. Where do they do that at? Because last time I checked, every corner in a black neighborhood has Planned Parenthood on it. It's like they're trying to tell us to have abortions. I don't know what she's talking about. I know society is trying to force marriage on people. Like, everyone's trying to act like marriage is something everybody should be aspiring to go have. And like she just said, most people are not mentally, emotionally, or financially stable enough to be getting married. Hence all the divorce rates, the high divorce rates, the high murder rates, the high DV rates. Because people aren't meant to be getting married. People are getting married, they don't know what the hell they're doing. So they end up getting divorced. They end up beating each other. They end up killing each other. It's depressing. To me personally, I feel like America doesn't like kids. America does not support families. America is not pressuring anybody to have children. It's actually the other way around. They're pressuring you not to have children. And at this point, the only people that are trying to really have some kids are white folks because they realize their numbers are dwindling. I don't know any other race of people or anybody else telling people to have kids. At this point, having children is the radical thing to do. That's basically what it's like you're basically having to be a rebel to say, screw you, America. I'm having the number of kids I feel like having. I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's just what it is. And like I said, again, if you're having children, it's because you want to have them. There's a Planned Parenthood on every corner in the black neighborhood. Like, it's really not that hard to have an abortion if you wanted to. Except in Texas now.
Into the whole topic of generational curses, having kids before you're ready, I do want to actually break down what the status meant because it seems to have gotten misconstrued. When I say flex, I see it as something to be proud of, right? I don't necessarily see it as, in this case, saying that you're better than other people because you don't have kids. I'm also not saying that being childless is a flex. Well, let me be clear. I do love my freedom, child, okay? I really do appreciate the fact that I don't have to be responsible for another being. I get to live the way that I want to live. But at the same time, children are great too. They're beautiful. I think that they are good.
The first time I found her channel, she was talking about being depressed and sad that she didn't know anyone in the cities that she was in. I can tell you, I have not felt lonely for a long time because I have children. I also remember, like, during the pandemic, a lot of people complaining about all this loneliness they were experiencing, people just struggling, wanting to get out of the house and date, and just crying about how they're lonely, and now we got to go buy a puppy, get a pandemic puppy or whatever because we're lonely. And I just wasn't having those problems. Like, people who have families are statistically have been surveyed or studied, and it's been proven that people who have families are happier than people who are single. People who are single, I feel like they somehow, for some reason, still don't have kids for whatever reason, didn't find the right one, or whatever the reason is, they may not be able to have children. Who knows? But I feel like they had to put on this whole campaign to make everyone feel like life is so much better for them. And it's like, the fact that you're having to do that tells us that it's not. Because I don't see anybody having a campaign about how great it is that I'm a mom. You know, I mean, I know people might think that, oh yeah, there's always stuff, but not really. I mean, no one's making a video like this just saying having kids is a flex. Or I'm so wonderful because I have children. You know, it's just, no one's doing that. Like, if you do a video, just like she's doing a video showing herself, you know, she has her makeup on, her little top, her hair's done, her, you know, parents naturally are proud of their children, so they're going to do videos with showing their children. So it's like, she's proud of herself, so she's showing herself. Single people, they're proud of themselves, so they show themselves. Parents are proud of their children, so they show their children. So people might be like, well, you're always like showing off your kids and nobody wants to see your kids, but maybe nobody wants to see you. You know, so again, it's like you have to look at, like, what are your priorities in life? Why do you wake up in the morning? Why do you go to work each day and work as hard as you do? So here's a study from CNN that asked, are people without kids happier? They said the study offers a mixed picture. This was published December 6, 2016. So a new study finds that there's no difference in life satisfaction between parents and non-parents. Parents experienced more highs and lows than the child-free study found. So when it comes to who is happier, parents or child-free people, most of the research up until now has concluded that it's the childless who are more satisfied with their overall lives. As a married mom of two, I always find myself reacting a bit defensively to that research. I'm happy, I say to myself. I may be stressed, sleep deprived, and certainly in need of me time, but I am very satisfied in my life. Isn't it possible that I could be just as happy as someone without kids, even if they have more time to sleep and take care of themselves? According to 2 recent studies, the answer might be yes and no. A report by Princeton University and Stony Brook University published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science found very little difference between the life satisfaction of parents and people without kids, once other factors such as income, education, religion, and health were factored out. Okay. Why would they factor that out? How can you determine someone's happiness and take out like the most important things? Money is like the top of the list, so that's weird. So that already lets me know this study is like a little bit of a mess. But anyways, said Arthur Stone, one of the study's co-authors. People with kids living at home tend to have more money and are more highly educated, more religious, and in better health, said Stone, a professor of psychiatry and psychology at Stony Brook University. All of those factors that go along with people having better life evaluations. One of those factors were statistically removed. The study found no difference in how satisfied the two groups. It said once those factors were statistically removed, the study found no difference in how satisfied the two groups felt about their lives. So basically, parents are happier. People with kids living at home have more money and they're more highly educated, they're more religious, and they're in better health. Because typically when you have children, you're going to take better care of yourself because you have little people you have to take care of. There's somebody else depending on you. So your standards are going to be higher. Your expectations of yourself and then your children are going to be higher because you're going to have high expectations of your children. It's just a natural thing. Stone said in an interview that similarities in reported happiness among parents and the child-free, especially in developed countries like the United States, can be chalked up to priorities, and I completely agree with that. Specifically, whether a person chooses to have kids. And this is what I always tell people. It's like you're going to be happy based on your priorities, whether you have children or not. So if you have children and you're unhappy, it's because your priorities do not align with a lifestyle of being a parent. If you don't have children and you're unhappy, it's because your lifestyle is, you're going to probably be wanting to do things that would involve having children, and you're going to want to be with people who have children, and they're going to be kind of looking at you like, no, you're not invited. It's just like a high school with the cliques and stuff, for real. But, like, for instance, like, say you like just going to the playground and enjoying a nice day. It's weird. You don't have any children. Why are you at the playground? Are you a pedophile? We don't know. So it's like all these, it's about what you like to do or not like to do that's going to make a difference. So if you don't know how to change, like switch up your priorities and slow down and adjust your life to having, because you have children and you're not able to find a way to be happy with that new, different type of life, then yeah, you're going to be unhappy. So that's why most people that have kids, they move to the suburbs, their lives slow down. They're not in the city anymore. They're not going out every night for drinks with friends. They're not doing all these crazy things. But of course, you can still do those things if you wanted to. It's not like your life is over and you just can never go out for drinks with friends. You're just probably not going to do it every night of the week. So it says, I choose an orange because I like oranges. You choose an apple because you like apples. There's no reason to think that your experiences should be any better than mine. Exactly. So it's like, just because you're childless doesn't mean my life is any better than yours, and vice versa, because I have children. We just like different things. So the orange is different than apples. Having kids is different than not having kids. It doesn't mean that one is intrinsically better. Sarah Mazes, author of the children's book On My Way to Bed and a mom of 3 in Los Angeles, agrees. It's like asking who's happier, people who like pizza or people who like Chinese. She said on Facebook, now what I like to know is who lives longer. That you can measure. And people with children live longer. So the Princeton Stony Brook study, which involved an examination of a survey of 1.8 million Americans, including parents between the ages of 34 and 46, conducted by Gallup from 2008 through 2012, did find one difference between parents and the childless. Parents tend to experience more highs and lows. They have higher highs, they have more joy in their lives, but also they have more stress and negative emotions as well, said Stone. I don't think that's true. I think people who are single with no kids, they can experience loneliness and a lot of other things that no one's talking about. Adina McGinley, a mom of 3 who lives outside New York, said that watching children grow is probably life's greatest joy, and it really, really is. At the same time, she says stress over wanting your kids to have good lives can be tapped into at any time, and that's kind of like a personal thing. If you're going to want to stress over something that you don't have any control over, that's your problem. And some people are able to just give their kids good lives, so you're going to be okay. And it says sometimes to an awful degree, and this adds endless strain to marriage. Oh, thank goodness I'm not married. That's a whole nother ball game. it's a whole other commitment, you know. And I've learned over my life, over my adulthood, my adult years so far, that the more commitments you add to your life, the more stress. So like marriage, a commitment, kids, a commitment, dog, a commitment, house mortgage payment, a commitment, car note, a commitment. It's like, it just bogs you down, you know. So it's like I gotta shake it off. You know, I can't have too many things pulling me this way, that way. That's why I don't do marriage. I'm probably never gonna get married again. I'm not a big advocate for it. I tell my kids to get married because they don't have kids yet. So I'm like, yeah, why not? Go for it. I'm gonna help you find a good woman, and I'm totally rooting for them. I want their marriages to work and last, but if they don't, they don't. You know, I just don't want my sons to have children with a bunch of different women, because then my grandkids is probably going to be spread out, and no thanks. Okay, so it says that strain can lead to parents feeling less satisfied with their relationships, according to one study, like their personal relationships, I guess. So in a study which involves surveys of more than 5,000 people in England and in the United States, the authors found childless couples were happier with their relationships and their partners than parents were, and were doing more work on their relationships than parenting couples. Well, maybe that means that parenting couples need to do more work on their relationships. That's simple enough. Because I know for me, when I was married, like that's one mistake that married couples do when they have children, is they put the children first, because everybody makes you feel like you have to put the children first. But you realistically actually had to put your relationship with your spouse first, because that's the foundation of the entire family. So if that's shaky, everything else is going to fall apart at some point. So when asked who was the most important person in their lives, mothers said their children and fathers said their partners. That's weird. You know what? That's kind of how it is. So I know when I was married, my ex-husband said that his job was to take care of me so that I could take care of the children. So that's interesting. Okay, so it may be during those mid-years when people are parenting that there's a shift away from the relationship for women. Yeah, because moms are kind of like, we're all about the rugrats. Once they're here, we're just like, husband who? Like, okay, the baby's crying, I need to get the baby. So for women, and it's like, there's definitely more pressure on women to like get motherhood right. Like if something goes wrong with the children, they don't really call the father. They blame it on the mom. So Dr. Jackie Gabb, one of the study's authors, said, Gabb, who is a senior lecturer in social policy at the Open University, said this doesn't mean the relationships are not working. It just means there's this difference in emphasis, and probably partly due to the time pinch, she added. Yeah, I was about to say, it really comes down to like only having 24 hours in a day, and you've got to devote a lot of that to your rugrats, to your kids. So it's like, okay, that time is short because you're working, you've got the children to take care of. Yeah. If we were still married, things probably would have gotten better in time, just because I have more time now. But like I said, I'm not a fan. And it's like, no. So she said there just isn't as much time to devote to the relationship. Jen Boss, a mom of two who blogs at Defining My Happiness, said on Facebook, all too often when couples have kids, they begin to deprioritize one another. Yes, and that's the problem, not the children. Exactly, because you can easily shift that and just make your spouse more of a priority, and you guys would be happier. So ironically, according to the Open University study, mothers were significantly happier with life than any other group, including childless women. Thank you. A finding Gabb says that can be explained by how mothers said children were number one in their lives. And that is true. If they're the happiest with life, but the least content with the level of relationship satisfaction, and least happy with partners, and least happy with the amount of maintenance of the relationship, but they're happy with life, then there's got to be something, said Gabb. What's a parent or a non-parent to make of this latest, somewhat conflicting research? Perhaps the most actionable finding for our lives comes from the Open University study, aptly titled Enduring Love, Couple Relationships in the 21st Century. The authors found that when asked what makes people feel most valued in their relationship, research participants said small acts of kindness. Yes, that is a huge game changer. I mean, your spouse doing little small things throughout the day is so much more important than those big things. It really is, because the little small things, if they don't get done, it starts to add up and you start to resent your partner. And then it just goes downhill from there. So it's as little as saying I love you, said Gabb. Out of everything in life, mothers identify having a cup of tea brought to them in bed as significant. Yes. Oh, what I wouldn't give for a cup of tea in bed. That is so sexy. In the U.S., we might replace that cup of tea with a latte from Starbucks, but we all get the point. Relationships benefit from those everyday gestures. Just those little gestures like that. They just say, I love you, and I just love it. So we need to think differently about what constitutes relationship work. And we need to think about if it's those everyday small things that are important to people, then let's think about what those small things might be and start to be more attuned to what's going on in our own relationships at Gab. I think I'll be picking up a latte on my way home tonight. That's a cute article. So I completely agree with this article. I do think it just has a lot to do with prioritizing your choices in life and where you are in life. You know, you may not be at an age or at a time apart. To me, it's really not about age. Once you're an adult, you're an adult. It's more about your goals, your life goals, and are they getting achieved? And I was one of those people that I would say, okay, in 10 years, I want to have this. In 5 years, I want to have this. I want to have this by this many years. And I would by the end of this year, I want to have this done, or I want to get this done in the next 6 months. So I was always one of those people that would give myself this time limit so that I wouldn't dilly-dally and just drag on and still not have things be accomplished. And so you might be in a point where you're like, okay, I want to finish my bachelor's degree before my partner and I start trying for children, start trying to have a baby. So, it's really about not really so much your age, but more so like where you are in life, and everybody's, your life milestones, they start to shift. They start to change a bit once you finish college. I think from the time you're a baby up until college, your life is pretty much the same and is on board with everyone else's. By a certain age, you're in first grade. By a certain age, you're starting college. By a certain age, da-da-da. But once you get past college, it's like every man and woman for him or herself. Like, it's like now you get married when you get married. You have kids when you have kids, because after college, people start to pursue different, dreams and goals. And it's like you may want to start a restaurant and your friend might want to become an attorney. So she's got to be in school like another 100 years. So, it's really like what determines like what your goals are in life and how long are they going to take. And that usually will determine when you decide to have children. And like for me, like for instance, like I was saying, people in the military tend to have their kids a lot younger. So I was already ready to have kids at like 18. I already had a career. I was already in the military. I knew I was going to have a steady paycheck. I could have stayed in the military and raised my kids and just always had a check coming in. And I was getting promoted and making more money. And you really, again, can make those moves, decide if you want to become an officer and make more money or whatever, get out, go to college and come back in as an officer. You just have a lot of choices that you can be making through life. And that's what determines when you should start having children. When you're feeling like you're ready is the best time. It's really up to you. It's like I said, it's a very personal choice. So to just come out and have this blanket statement, I feel like it's almost more like clickbait, just to kind of get people watching your videos or whatever. Because, and I like, I've watched 2 of her videos, so I can't say I like her videos, but I like them so far. And it did trigger me because as a mother, I'm like, okay, like I'm not exactly, a soup sandwich over here just because I have children. Like I still feel like I'm a catch, And my son was just saying that this morning. He was like, Mom, like to me, to men, you're seen as this beautiful woman. To me, you're just mom, And I thought that was so cute because my kids are my life. They're my babies. So, it's like I definitely still have heads turning and guys still checking me out. But do I want to date? No, I don't. So that's not even on my radar. So again, like I said, with people who don't choose to not have kids or have kids, everyone's in different places in life and they're doing different things. 10 years from now, I feel like I will be ready to get more serious with somebody. But right now, I'm kind of focusing on me and my children. I'm making sure that we're getting the bag. I'm making sure that, our futures are going to be set up for life. So I really want to focus on my children and their education. And my older sons, they are becoming adults. So I'm focusing on making sure that their foundations are going to be strong so they can go on to be a good husband to somebody. So that's where my focus is. I really don't have time to be arguing with somebody and dealing with some controlling and having to just give my time, like some guy telling me, you didn't call me for days and blah, 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 blah. I don't have time for that. So yeah, that's all I had to say on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you doing it for yourself because you want to get the bag? Are you doing it so you can have your nails done, your hair done, your makeup done at any given time? Like, you have to think about those things, and then you have to say, like, you have to kind of like be able to empathize. And that's another thing I don't like. When people don't have kids, they tend to be not just selfish, but like immature. They don't age well. Like this, like they'll be like 27 acting like they're like 18, or they'll be like 35 acting like they're 27, and it's like, can you please act your age? You know what I'm saying? Like, they just act so childish because it's like because of the fact that they don't have a human being to take care of. And in the Black community, there is not a ritual to give this rites of passage to people to let individuals know you are an adult now. You're supposed to act this such and such way. There's nothing there that like really announces that. You turn 18 and you may or may not launch. Some people grow up mature and go on to do great things, and others are just like perpetually in this childlike state, and it's annoying. Like, I remember one time, so I was at this office getting some stuff for my children. I think I was at a doctor's office or whatever, and this woman, I just knew she didn't have kids because she was like my age. She was old, but she had like bunny ears on or something for like Halloween. It was just like really very like adolescent, prepubescent, immature, childish. It was weird because I'm like, you're at work and you're rocking this, and she was talking about her and her boyfriend like going to a Halloween party, and just her whole conversation was just like, ugh, like, I don't know. I was just like not interested in that conversation. I just felt like there are so many other things going on in the world. I could care less about a Halloween party. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had to worry about COVID or this or that. Like, there's just like real things going on. And me being an introvert, like, I'm not the type of person to like ever really want to do the small talk stuff or like talk about things that don't have any substance. So that's just me. So I'm sitting here like, okay, but I'd rather be talking about my kids and talking to other people who have kids because we're building something. I don't want to talk about your Halloween party. Sorry, not sorry.
But I said what I said, and I stand on what I said, okay? I do feel like acknowledging that you have work to do and choosing to do so before you have a child is a flex because you're taking an active stance against generational curses. Before we move on, just to clarify what I mean by generational curses, I see them as being the consequences of what your ancestors did or did not do, and these consequences are being passed down to later generations. Some of the common ones would be addictions, poverty, lack of financial literacy, lack of examples of a healthy relationship, inability to express.
And so while I get what she says, I think it's interesting because a lot of people, when you have children, they think your life stops. Like, you're not able to educate yourself any further or go any higher or leave the house and and experience life. I remember once my mom told me when I was a girl, little, young girl, I was like probably 12, 11, something like 10 years old or something like that. And she told my sister and me, like, once you have children, your life is over. My mother is a narcissist, and my sister and I completely agree as adults that my mother is probably one of those women who probably should have never had kids and most likely only had children to keep a man because she loves to have a man in her life. I don't give a crap how much he's on the Tyrone spectrum, how dusty he is. My mother is going to make sure she got a man in her life. So, I have 5 children, and people are always asking me, like, I don't know how you do it. How do you do all the stuff you're doing? I don't know how you do it. And it'd be like somebody who don't have no kids. They could be pretty successful themselves, but they like seem like they're shocked that even though I have children, I'm still going to rise and be amazing. And I've even had people who say, like, before I mention my children, they don't even realize I have children. They're like, I didn't even know you had kids until you said you had kids. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm actually insulted by that because I pride myself on being an excellent mother. So the fact that I'm walking around just like looking like I don't have children, I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, what does that mean? It just really fucks with my head. I'm not even gonna lie. But I get that a lot. Like, people being like surprised I have kids, and then especially if I tell them I have 5, they're really shocked. And I guess it's because life didn't stop for me. You know, just because I had my sons, I still went on to finish my master's degree. I still went on to buy properties. I still went on to build wealth for my children. I still went on to be amazing. Am I married? No. And I don't really regret that because I got married.
I think that all of us can identify at least one curse. You can literally see how that one thing is impacting so many other people.
So while she's making some great points, the reality is nobody is perfect, and nobody's ever going to ever be 100% perfect. So while you're working, quote unquote, working on yourself, how old are you going to be when you finally are able to have kids because you feel like you have worked on yourself into perfection? Because what she just listed, for, of course, some of those things, you know, addiction to doing drugs, obviously, like stuff like that is a huge negative. You should not be having children if you're a drug addict. If you're a criminal, if you're burglarizing homes and stealing from stores, I don't know, you don't have kids. You know, cause like those things are like the obvious red flags. But a lot of stuff she listed, you can actually work on yourself while you are a parent. If you're driven and you have a type A personality like me, you can still get a lot done. Like for me, for instance, I was able to finish three college degrees. I just closed on my 4th property in the last 2 years. And I own altogether like over 30 acres of land. And I just feel like the sky's the limit for me and my family and my sons. And honestly, I have to tell you that my sons drove me, because I'm already driven in and of itself, but my sons made me a better person. They made me a better mother, a better woman. Every single day I wake up and I want to strive to be the best version of myself for my children. And they push me, they motivate me. And I just feel like people who don't have children, they tend to never grow up. I feel like because we don't have this like ritual of really assigning adulthood to our people in the Black community, people just are forever Peter Pan. Like, they never want to grow up. And it just, to me, not having children just prolongs this childish behavior that does not suit the race as a collective. It doesn't help our race to move forward at all, because everybody's trying to be like 5 years old their whole life. And I just find that me personally, I like to only deal with people that have children because they are more mature. They are more on their game. They're getting shit done. They're like accomplishing things. They're just way more mature. I'm going to invest that money into some real estate or something along those lines, and seal the bag for my future and for my heirs, because that's what my sons are now. So yeah, you can work on yourself while you're a parent. It's not going to kill you. It's going to be okay. People are constantly evolving and changing and maturing and growing up and learning new things. And when you know better, do better. You shouldn't be in this perpetual state of stillness, just standing still, whether you have children or don't have children. Keep it moving. Don't use the fact that you are a parent, a single parent, a married parent, or whatever parent to say it's time for me to I can't live the rest of my life. That's ludicrous, especially nowadays. I mean, it's like everything is so much more accessible because of the internet. So you really don't have an excuse at this point to step your game up, no matter whether you're a parent or not.
Well, full moment of transparency. Child, there are lots of generational curses that are being passed down in my family. And from what I can see, the reason why we're not breaking this cycle is because no one, from what I can see, is really taking the time to do the shadow work. Really being honest with themselves, digging deep inside to figure out what they're repressing.
And see, with what she's talking about, it's like, okay, so even if people have kids or don't have kids, you're passing down that generational curse to me, because if you don't have kids, your generation stops. Everything stops. Your family, your lineage is done. Like if she never has children, her lineage stops with her generation. She's the end of it. Once you have children, still do the work. Working on yourself is a daily thing. It's not something like you're going to be perfect before you have children. That's just not realistic. No race is perfect before they start having children. Now they probably do prepare themselves a little bit more as far as like their finances and things like that. But me personally, I didn't want to be an old mom. So I don't regret anything I did in my life. I just don't. I'm not one of those people that live with regrets. I learn from them. So like my experiences. So I'll say, okay, I've had my two older sons a lot younger. And then I waited like 9 years because I wanted more children. But I gave it some time and found the right man. And then, or what I thought was the right man. That's another story. But anyways, you got to just pull yourself back up. It's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up. That's my motto. So it's like, life is what it is. No one's going to be able to predict what they're going to experience for the rest of their lives. That's like saying you have a crystal ball and you're going to be able to look out into the future and say, my life is going to be perfect. Now, you can have your finances in order to say, okay, I can have children. Like for me, I went into the military. So I knew I already had a career starting at 18 years old. If I wanted to stay in the military, that was going to be a guaranteed check for my child to me. That was what I did to say, okay, because I wanted to be a mom. I wasn't ever really the type to think much about marriage. I just knew, because I was surrounded by single mothers, and I wouldn't say like just by themselves single, because of course like my dad was still around. My mom got divorced. She's been married 3 times, but anyways, she was divorced from my dad, who was really my stepdad, but I consider him my dad. My bio dad was a deadbeat. He ran off somewhere, but she was married to his stupid stuff too. But anyways, so my stepdad was my dad in my eyes. He had been in my life since I was like a baby and was supporting us before he even met us, because he was in love with my mom and loved us too. Anyways, that's my little cute backstory. But yeah, so my mom was not really quote unquote a single mother, because my dad did everything. He did so much stuff for us. It was crazy. Like he always had 2 jobs, was always providing for us. To this day, he's the love of my life. I love my dad so much. So anyways, I'm a daddy's girl, if you can't tell. And then, so it's like people, I think the best you can do is learn from your mistakes. Of course, you don't, like I said earlier, you don't want to do the obvious no-nos like drugs and alcohol and this, that, and the other. And even if you are doing those things and you have children, you can still stop doing those things. It is possible to go to rehab or go through the process of stopping those things for the sake of your children. Like some people actually stop doing those things because they have children and they want to be a better person and be around for their children. So I feel like the black community is like the black races, or the black community in America is like the only collective group that doesn't seem to value children or like children, like our own children. And I think it stems from self-hate. I just think there's been so much of breeding this idealization into our heads that we're not worthy, we're inferior to whiteness, and we're not any good, that I think that comes out, that's to me is a generational curse, is the idea that having kids is a liability or a burden, and it's sad. Like when I'm actually out with my 5 sons, or I see other races of people, the only people that probably say something negative about me having 5 children besides black people would be white people, which I expect that, because they've been our open enemy since forever. Like I don't like you either, and I don't like the fact that they have a lot of kids, because I don't like white people. I just don't like them like that. There's some white people I like. It's like a very small percentage. But anyways, and so I find it interesting though when I meet black people who are not from this country, especially like from Africa, East Africa, because that's actually where my mom's family is, where we're from on my mother's side. But anyways, I did my DNA test. They seem to they actually see children as an asset and an honor. And they always tell me how blessed I am when I meet like Ethiopians or, and I'm like, that's what's up, because that's my people. Like maybe it's in my DNA to just like be like wanting to have a large family, but but yeah, so I always get really good vibes from them, and they always let it be known that you're blessed. Another group of people that I find love to know that I have lots of kids are Hispanics, Mexicans. They have a lot of children, so they love to hear that I also have a lot of children, that I have a big family, because we love children. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I think it's actually, it's really problematic that the Black community finds not having children as a flex. It's like, so our numbers disappear, going down, decreasing. We're not replacing ourselves. That's a flex. And I think the reason why it's a flex is because Black Americans do not build. We don't think long term. Like when I have my 5 sons, like I was thinking lineage, I was thinking legacy. I knew I was building something. It wasn't like I'm just on drugs, on welfare, popping out kids. No, I had a plan. It was planned. Everything, all of it was planned. It wasn't oopsies, And like I keep explaining to people, I'm like, in 21st century, there's really no such thing as oopsies. Like you have so many different ways you can terminate a pregnancy if you don't want to have kids. It's not even funny. So if you're having children, it's pretty intentional. I don't think people realize that. Like, I'm like, dang on well, if you don't have kids, you did some stuff. Okay, so don't pretend like you do not know that there's a lot of options out there to not have a child. So I actually commend people who have children, because I know it's very intentional and they are willing to be selfless enough to raise another human being. And yes, I do agree with her that, of course, you do want to be responsible about this. You don't want to just be having children and knowing that you're a hot mess and you're going to pass on your hot messiness over to your babies. But like I said, like even if you get pregnant and you are in a bad state, if you have the wherewithal, you say, man, like this may be my only time to have a baby, or this is God, because not everybody believes in abortions, guys. Like God put this little being in you for a reason, and you might be like, this might be what makes you stop doing whatever bad things you were doing. It's possible. It's okay. Like just because you have children doesn't mean you have to just continue to go downhill. Absolutely not. I mean, actually, it's the opposite. Most people I know that have children, they've become better people because of it.
And seeing how these traumas have impacted them. Now, it's really, really easy for someone to point the finger at someone and say, you did this, and this is how it made me feel. It's another thing to say, you did this is how it made me feel, and this is how it's impacting the relationships that I have. But it's a whole nother level of accountability for someone to say, these are the things that have happened, this is how it's impacted me, and these are the steps that I'm going to take to fix it. And these are things that I may need to work on before I jump into a relationship, or in this case, before I have children. I will always commend someone who has the ability to step outside of themselves and make a selfless decision like that in attempts to avoid negatively impacting someone else. And that is where the no kids flex comes from. Now, I know that I still have a whole lot that I need to work on, child, okay? I can have a conversation with someone and it'll trigger me, and then I'll sit down and reflect on why I got triggered that way, and I'm able to connect it to something that's being passed down in my family. And this is largely why I personally do not have children yet. And I'm not gonna lie, it is tough because you do get a lot of pressure to have children once you hit your mid to late 20s. So I'm definitely hearing all of that now. For me, my biggest fear is for my children to grow up and speak on me the same way that some of my relatives speak on their parent.
Okay, so let me tell her right now, they probably will, because children are all, I don't know anybody who's 100% loved their childhood. Because think about it, you're growing up for 18 years, you really don't have a whole lot of say of what you can and can't do because you're a minor, you're a child. So most people will say there were things about their childhood they wish they could change, and a lot of them do. They go on to change it in different ways. And you know what's so funny? My sister and I, that's why I want my sister. I want to get her on this channel with me so we can do a collab so badly, man. If you guys could be a fly on the wall to like some of our really awesome, you know, intense conversations that we be having about our childhood and how we raise our children now. We were just talking about that, how, you know, you might experience something as a child that you didn't care for. And so you're like, well, when I become a parent, I'm not going to do these things. And so you change it and you do something else that you thought is better. And your child's not going to like it. They're not going to appreciate it. They're not going to like whatever you're doing. And they're going to change it when they become a parent. So the cycle just kind of goes on and on like that. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, say, like, oh yeah, my sister said, like, Jamie Foxx was on some talk show and he was talking about how
Jamie's girls, 27-year-old Corinne and 13-year-old Annalise. But the Oscar winner told me that along with the joys, he's been through an awful lot of pain as a single dad.
I was the Disney dad and didn't know it. I was out running, trying to make sure everything was great, but I was missing time. And so when I would show up, let's just go to Disneyland. Let Mickey Mouse fix anything. The emotional potholes will just fill it with Mickey Mouse. And at one point, we end up in front of a therapist. And first of all, I was like, black people don't go to therapy. And she was like, Dad, please. And my daughter told me, hey, I didn't really like you. But she said, hear me out. The Disneyland and all those things was great, but I just really wanted to kick it with you. And so that made me go, wow. So here she is teaching me now.
They were really poor and they never had jelly in the house. And so he was working a lot so he could have lots of money for his daughters and his children once he became a dad. And one thing he said, he always has jelly in the house. But of course, his children probably could care less about all this jelly that's sitting in the house. In fact, they might think it's weird that their dad has a whole shelf dedicated to like 50 different types of jellies or whatever. They may not even like jelly. And then on top of that, he was actually saying, like, because he worked so much, because he wanted to be a provider for his children. You know, he's Jamie Foxx, so we know he has millions and millions of dollars. He basically worked a lot. So when he finally was able to spend time with his kids or his daughter, I know especially, he would take her to like Disney World or, you know, do these really fun things with her. And she complained about that. When she turned about 15, she told her dad, she told Jamie Foxx, I just felt like you really never talked to me. You just threw money at me. And so, like I said, like, that's an example. Like, so Jamie Foxx grew up without money. So then he works extra hard so he could have lots of money. And then his daughter complains because she's like, what I wanted was free. I just wanted you. I just wanted my dad's time. I just wanted to talk to my dad and have him around when I wanted to talk to him about things. I didn't want Disney World and shiny new bicycles and all this stuff that you just threw, like all this money you were throwing at me. So that's like a prime example of, again, overthinking everything. Like I said, if it's like an obvious red flag, because I'm telling you right now, guys, parents are not perfect. Like, come on, we're human. No one is perfect. Most people walking around who have children are not perfect. But the thing that's really the most important thing is that they're willing to work on themselves. Like, if you know you don't want to repeat a generational curse, then fix it so you don't repeat the generational curse, whatever that curse may be. I can't think of, like, for instance, I don't like child molestation. I was molested as a child. I don't like it. So because of that, my family, I'm like I have a typical black family where they don't talk about it. And in fact, they actually protect the abuser, and they act like he didn't do anything when he did. And he abused members of my family besides me as well. And so because of that, I was very nervous about having a daughter, because I was scared like something like that could happen to her, and I would never, ever, 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 ever be able to live with myself. So, God understands. It's not even, I guess. I know God knows me. Okay, we are very close. So he gave me all boys because of that reason. And that's not to say the boys cannot be molested. So even with me having sons, I'm highly overprotective. And I don't care. I'm like, okay, I might be doing the most, but my sons that love me and understand, they already love me, but we're really close. Anyways, they'll understand when they get older why mommy never let them spend the night at people's houses, or, I was just a little bit extra with some things. So it's like, that was my way of not repeating that generational curse of something happening to my children and me having to I'm just looking the other way and we gonna act like it didn't happen, because first of all, I'm burning down the whole country if something happened to my babies, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so yeah, we gonna catch a whole case up here. So I'm like, let me try to not have stuff happen to them, because I do need to like kind of be like a mom to the other babies. So let me be good and just keep my head on a swivel, keep them around me. And my kids really just grew up around their family, and I'm not saying their family is perfect, because obviously something happened to me with my family, but like, you doing the best you can, nothing's going to be perfect. But I am hyper vigilant about things, and I'm constantly talking to my kids like, please tell me, because I'm not the type to sweep anything under the rug. That person will be in jail, period, point blank, period. I don't care who it is. I'm like, I don't care if it's the Pope. Tell me who it is. It could be your father. I don't care. And I'm going to take that back, because I don't want to put that in the universe. But it could be anyone. I will put that person in prison. I do not care. I believe my child. I will put that person in prison. So I've made that very clear to my children, that they don't, and I told them they can't do anything to mommy. Don't be sitting there thinking, if he says, I'm going to hurt your parent, he ain't doing shit. He ain't doing nothing to mommy. Let me know what's going on so that I can protect you. So my point is, whatever the generational curse is, it can be broken with you. And that's the beauty of it when you have children, is that you get to break it by having children and doing things differently. If you don't have children at all you're doing is ending your lineage. You're just stopping your family's legacy continuing on right with you. And maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you feel like you're the person to end the generational curse of your family by just stopping it, like not having anybody else continue on in that family. Like, say, like, if you have like a hereditary disease or something, and it gets passed down over and over and over, then you might want to say, okay, I don't want to pass this on to my children, and then they pass it on to my grandchildren, and so on and so forth. You may feel like that's your duty to end it, to stop it and just not have any more kids. That, for the greater good of society. So maybe that would be a good thing. But, if it's not something super drastic, or, the medical research has made some incredible advancements. There might be a cure or a treatment, some way to deal with whatever's going on. My point is, there's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. There's always a way to get around things. There's always a way to fix things. There's always a chance to end things and stop doing whatever was bad, and say this. And my sister and I were just talking about that. Like my dad, like I just said, was a deadbeat. My biological father was a deadbeat dad. My sister and I are excellent mothers. We're super, and not only we're super involved. Probably my kids would call us helicopter moms, but we're just overly involved. And that's probably like our way of ending the generational curse, because we were like, well, what we're not going to do is continue your deadbeat behavior on through the family. So he's being a deadbeat by himself. And when I saw my brother trying to go down that path of, he's my half brother, but it's my brother. Anyways, but so he's not getting it from my deadbeat dad. His dad was there, but he was trying to go down this path of starting deadbeat dadism. And I was like, that's what you're not going to do, is be a deadbeat dad. Go get my nieces and be in their life before I hit you upside your head. So, so not only have I impacted ending it on my end, my sister ending it on her end as far as being deadbeats, but we went on, because I also have my kids' fathers in their lives. Like, I make sure that that's like very important that we do that. Like we're like a family unit. We're a blended family unit. We work like a village to make sure our children grow up bright and intelligent and strong and amazing. And so, and my sister did the same thing. She has a really great relationship with her ex-husband. And yeah, so anyways, so my brother, he could have had his lineage end with him, but he had my nieces, and I was like, you're going to do right by them. We're not going to start a bad generational curse. We're not going to, you're not going to need to end one, because there wasn't one to really end. As far as like with my dad, he was a good dad. He was there. So, I stopped that. It could have been a generational curse that began, and I was like, we're not doing that in this family. We don't abandon our children. So I was reaching out to my nieces and making sure they had everything they needed. until my brother got his stuff together, and now he's in his daughter's lives, and that's the way it's going to stay, because this big sister does not play it. So let me finish her video up.
That's just what it is. I want to be able to pass on knowledge, wealth, and fundamental values to my children, not burden and trauma. Some people did make a valid point that having a child changes you or it forces you to get your stuff together. And I get that, but I don't want to have to play catch up when my child is here, when I could have done a lot of work before my child was born. Ideally, I would like to feel more confident in my mothering abilities. This sounds so weird even saying that. Like, actually thinking about giving birth and becoming a mom, I'm like, bro, I am maturing. Like, these are not even conversations that I really had, but it's like the things that I'm thinking about. I just want to be very diligent about.
And see, another thing is, like, when you go in the military, it's just certain cultures. Like, when you go in the military, that's something I noticed too, is people tend to have children a lot younger, because they are kind of forced to grow faster, because they're leaving home and like everything they know, and they're going to be living somewhere brand new, and it just makes you grow up faster, and you're around a lot of people your age who are in shape and looking pretty good, and you have your children. And I kind of noticed that, like, once I got out, like, everybody my age was still like, bro, dude, like, they were still like children, and they didn't have children. And I was like, okay, so I guess, when you stay as a civilian, you kind of have to push that back, because you're still working on yourself. Like, you're going to college, then you have to get a career started, and college alone is like 4 years. And it's like, by the time people my age that stayed as civilians finished college, I was done with like the first part of my career. It was weird. Like, I was getting out of the military, and I already had my one son. So I was just kind of like, oh, okay. So people were just kind of, it was like weird, like looking at how slow things are when you don't go in the military versus when you do. Like, people kind of like kept pushing back these things. And again, it is what it is, to each his or her own. And of course, with me, as far as like breaking, when we talk about breaking generational curses, I don't want my sons to go in as enlisted. So they are going to go in the military. They're going to continue that family tradition. But I have them going to college first, so they can go in as officers. And the military gave me a great foundation and a great way to support my life and my children. And so it's definitely something I want them to go ahead and do, but I'm just going to tweak it a little bit so that their life experience is even better than mine is. And mine is pretty good. So I want them to just go beyond. And I always tell them, go beyond, mommy. Whatever I do, I want you to go further. Like, I got my master's, I want you to get your doctorate. And that's just the kind of, that's how we play it over here. That's the generational, gifts that I give my offspring.
Not passing on these things that have continuously gone on in my family. And when I do have a child, I feel like my child will be planned. Life happens. I know it's a lot of babies, but I really, really think that my baby is going to.
Like I said, there's no such thing as babies unless you just do not believe in abortions or Plan B or whatever. It's like there's so many ways to end a pregnancy or prevent a pregnancy from even happening to begin with. That is not even funny, except for like Texas now, which says you cannot have an abortion after 6 weeks. Pretty much everywhere else you can have your abortion, so I'm not saying abortions are great, and but most people are pro-choice, let's be real, and you do what you got to do. Like, if you get pregnant and you're not ready, that's an option you have. And you, of course, before you even get to that point, you can be on birth control, you can use condoms. There's like a ton of things you can do before you would even need to get to that point to begin with. So the babies, I think we're more like in the 70s. It's not really, I don't hear stories of people who are like, I was 30 weeks pregnant before I realized I was pregnant. It's not happening. You're pregnant, and you can really make a conscientious effort of whether or not you can make a conscious decision, like, are we keeping this child or not? Everyone has that conversation. Everybody has a real serious conversation. So like I said, the children who are here, their parents wanted them to be here. Okay, so there's not an anything. That's like a myth at this point, and it's been a myth for a long time, if you really want to be honest, because my son is 17 and I made a conscious decision to have his little crazy self, and I love him to pieces. That's my mini-me. He acts just like me, and I just don't know what I would do without him. And it's like, you have those thoughts like, I'm going to be, his dad and I are not married. What do I do? It was scary at the time. It's funny because when I look back, I mean, I thought I was really young. I was terrified. And it's like, I wasn't even really young, but I was young. I was 21 and I was turning 22, like basically a couple of months after he was born. He was born in May. I turned 22 in July. But then when I hear about people who are having children as teenagers, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that I could not have done. I'm not gonna say what I couldn't have done. I could have probably did it. I wasn't going to do the abortion thing. And and of course you think about it because you're like scared and you're young, but I had a good career. I had a stable job. I had benefits. The military pays for everything. So I was like, why not? And honestly, to be honest, he was planned. He was kind of planned. So his father and I were very in love, and I was young and kind of naive, and things did not work out, but he is the best thing that came out of that union. To this day, I will always say that is my love. He was a masterpiece that I got from the crazy that went down in Belgium. Okay, let's continue.
To be planned. And so again, that just gives me that time to really work on myself before I have a child. So I don't know, I hope that makes sense. There were some people who got offended by it, both men and women. And I know that I'm a person sometimes that sees things very black and white, and that's something that I am actively working on. But a lot of times I like to see the logic in things instead of acting on emotion. And I'm like, what is there to debate here? Who is going to debate that it's not a good idea to work on yourself before you have a child? But I don't know, let me know. Am I being too judgmental? Am I being too hard on myself? Do I have unrealistic expectations?
All of that. She's all of that. She's doing the most. It's unrealistic. You're being too hard on yourself. All of it. Like, she's an intelligent girl. She doesn't, I don't know what her finances look like, but just the fact that you have this mindset that she has, you're going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? Because like, it's like back in the day, they would have all these children and raise them in like a 1-bedroom shack or whatever. You're going to make a way for your child. And like she said earlier, and like I said before she said it, most people become better people because of their babies, because of their children. It pushes them to do more. It pushes them to grow up. Like she just said, like, oh, I'm thinking like a grown up, and I'm maturing. Yeah, that's what kids do to you. That's what they're going to do to you, because you're responsible for like another human being. And that's a pretty big deal. So, a lot of people, like, whatever you thought you had planned, when you have children, like, it goes on steroids. Like, you really just like, I got to get this accomplished. And like I said, because of the internet, there's so many ways to accomplish things now that were probably not an option back in like the 90s, before the computers became like a household thing. So, I mean, like, for instance, like, I order so much stuff online, I don't even have to go in the store, because I'm just like, I'm too busy as a mommy, especially with COVID. I was like, I don't want my babies in the public spaces, so I can order anything and have it like probably within a few hours, up to like maybe a day or two, so that's a game changer as a mother. Like, I order food, bulk food, all kinds of crazy stuff. Whatever my kids need, I can have it at my house by like the next day, and not have to go into 50 stores looking for it. That's time consuming. Another thing, I went to school online. I got partially some of my degrees online, and some were in the classroom. So that's another option you have. Just because you have children doesn't mean you can't go back to college and finish your degree. There's just the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit because of technology, and people need to use technology as a tool and take full advantage of it, and stop. America has a real way of just acting like technology is just not existing, and we're falling behind because of that. Because China makes very great use of tech. They're very smart, and it shows, and they're a superpower because of it, and they're going to most likely, I really feel like they're going to bypass America in their superpowerness, because they just They embrace technology and they run with it. And I'm telling black people, I'm telling you, like, you can start a business online, you can buy property online, you can get your master's degree online, you can do anything online nowadays, and it's just as valid as doing it in person. And people learned that from COVID because everybody wanted to look down on doing stuff online because, like I said, America does not embrace technology for some reason. I think the old fogey white guys don't want to embrace technology because it evens the playing field. So they want to keep it discredited because they don't want people to be able to compete against them and start making like all this money. But they can hate on it all they want to. The proof is in the pudding, baby. Like, starting a business is starting a business. I don't care, whether you have $1 million and you did it the old school way, you went to a bank and got a loan, blah, blah, or if you went online and applied for a loan and started your business through your website, through the SEC website, it's still a business. You know what I'm saying? You still got the capital for it. So, when I say it's a game changer, and like, if you guys don't know, IT is my background. So for anybody to say it and know this, it's me. And I feel like I'm just talking into the empty wilderness because nobody listens to me when I try to tell them about technology. But I'm like, technology is everything. It's absolutely everything. And I don't know if I could have done all the things that I do without it. Like, and honestly, I would say, like, knowing me, I would have been able to do those things. It would have just been like a lot harder. So yeah. So I do think she's being hard on herself. I do think she's being extra, doing the most. And that's actually a good thing. That's a good quality to have. But it's one of those things where it's like, you don't want to overthink it to the point that you never do it. Like, some people would be like, I need to read this book. I need to do this. I need to do that before I actually start a business. And it's like, yeah, the best way to learn sometimes is to just go do it. You know what I'm saying? You clearly have a good head on your shoulders. You're a thinker. Because you're overthinking this. So you'll be fine. You're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You're going to get yourself a job. Like, one thing I would say to do before you have children is find a way to have some passive income. If you want to take forever to have kids, then that's something you should be working on. Or saving up your money. One of those two things, or both. So, like, if you want to buy a rental and start having that passive income coming in, that will be a game changer for you once you become a mommy, because a lot of things can change when you become a mom. You could lose your job. You could have to miss days of work because your baby got sick. All kinds of stuff can happen, and you want to make sure that you always have money coming in to take care of you and your child. And that's just one piece of advice I can give you. Make sure you have your health care benefits so your child and you are always going to be good. And that can be Medicaid. So I know right now we're fighting for universal health care, but that's basically universal health care that we already have. So if you meet a certain, income threshold, you can get Medicaid. So that way you can make sure you and your baby are always covered. So there's like a lot of things out there for you as a parent. And of course you want to have a solid foundation. You probably want to get married, maybe. I'm not going to really give my opinion on marriage because I'm not a fan. Not right now. I probably never really have been. I was married, didn't love it. Now I'm divorced. Was engaged. Didn't like the idea of being married to that person. Now I'm separated. So I'm just like, I'm not the person at all. Like, I can talk to you about children all day long, but when it comes to marriage and relationships, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not any good at it. I'm a Leo. We be doing the most with the relationships, but I think we overthink our relationships, and that's why we never quite can get it together with the relationship, because we're always wanting it to be perfect, and it's never going to be perfect. And there's no. I don't even like talking about it. It's just so bleak. It's just such a bleak topic because I just don't believe in it. I don't believe in love anymore, fairy tales. I believe all of it is a load of crap. And I don't know. I'm just really jaded when it comes to romance and all that stuff, the romantic partner and all that. But, try to do your best, of course. And if he's a good man, then you want to get married. And if you're a good woman, he'll marry you. And that would be the best for the child, is to come into a family that has married parents. But that's only if it's a healthy marriage. I have to stress that, because too many people love to stress getting married first, but let's be honest here, the divorce rates are very high, and they're high for a reason. So I don't know if it's just we don't know how to pick good partners, or people don't. I feel like a lot of people just don't know how to be married. They don't. They think it's just no work involved, and it is a lot of work, and then you might get married like I did and realize you really don't like it. So that's a whole other story. It's marriage. The ideal thing is to get married before you have your baby. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that alone on that.
Really would like to know what you guys' thoughts are. But ultimately, that is what I meant when I said that it is a flex to be able to say that you waited to have children until you are ready to fully support them. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Was this post insensitive? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And if you...
Whew, okay, so yeah. So let me read some of the comments. Okay, so it's just everybody griping about how they never wanted children. Someone saying, why would you have anybody have a problem with what you said? I don't really know if we have an issue with what she's saying. I think it's the way she said it. Because it's like, so you're saying having children is not a flex? That's what the problem is to me. So, you know what I'm saying? Because I do get the vibe you're trying to say you're better than people who had kids younger. That's just what it is. It's like if you're saying not having kids is a flex, then you're saying that having kids is not a flex. But having kids is a flex as well for some people. It just depends on what people want out of their relationships. Like for a lot of people who have children, they don't want to date other people who don't have children because they know they're not as mature. They know they're not going to understand them because they are a parent. So on and so forth. Also, like if you're of a certain age, somebody might want to have kids and they may not be able to have them. They may want to be looking for somebody who has children already. Like my dad was like that. He met my mom and he wanted a big family. So he was happy to find out she already had children, And then, it's just like a lot of different things you have to look at. So just saying it is kind of insensitive. Because it's basically saying people who have children, it gives the impression that people who have children are not good. They didn't do a good thing. And parents are good. They're really good. They are commendable. They were willing to have the child and raise another person besides themselves. And I don't know. That's just my take on it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below about what I said and about what she said. And like, share, and subscribe because I'm trying to grow my little channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I have lots of great content coming up, guys, in case you're wondering, like, oh, I don't know if I want to follow her. Watch my other videos, and, I like to give a lot of tips on how to be great in your life as a black person, as a single mother, as a black woman, So I definitely have a lot of little gems I like to drop on everybody every now and then. So I will talk to you guys soon, and this channel just going to get better and better with time as I get more time to work on it. So hopefully you guys liked what I'm doing so far. And of course, if you have feedback, you can email me at samanthathegreat@gmail.com. And that's Samantha, SAMANTHA, the THEE, like Megan the Stallion. And the great is GREAT @gmail.com. So Samantha the Great @gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you guys soon, and take care. Peace.